welcome back to my channel. If you are new here and like the video, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button for more content. Thank you for watching. Hello everybody, welcome back to the third part and the final part of the I Can't Sleep challenge. Now this does get a little dark and goes into some triggering stuff such as self-harm and, well, not actually self-harm, it's just the intention to self-harm and previous implications of self-harm. So if any of that does trigger you, please do not watch this. Now let's go ahead and get to the gay. I'm sorry dude, I didn't realize you were struggling with all of that. Yeah, I honestly didn't know either. I guess I've been a little antsy since everything. Understandable. Kageyama is online. Perfect timing. It's your turn. Kageyama is offline. Ouch. Do we assume he is starting the prank? Either that or he is still upset. We'll just check back in later. Good idea. Bokuto and Iwazumi are offline. Kageyama threw his phone aside, hearing his older sister Miwa knock on the door. Now? Of all times? Tobio? Not now, Miwa. She opened the door upon hearing her little brother's voice crack. Hey, what's wrong? I said not now. Please leave. Are you sure? Damn it, just shut up! He snapped, raising himself from his bed, startling his sister to stunned silence. Why the hell are you caring now? Just fucking leave me alone. Kageyama tended to have no filter whenever he was angry. He couldn't even explain his anger. Damn Okawa. It hurt. His own idol just... Before she could respond, he stormed out of the room and slammed the front door of the house, heading into the dark, stormy night, leaving his phone behind. Miwa began chasing after him, but he was already out into the dark night. She cursed, seeing his phone lying there, not in his reach. She grabbed it, dialing a number, knowing he was nearby and still awake. Kags, why are you calling so late? This isn't Tobio. She cut him off before he could finish his sentence. The blonde, who was once had a gentle voice, had one more with urgency than prior. Miwa? Why do you have his phone? What's going on? She sighed, rubbing her brow while grabbing her raincoat. Look, I can't explain much, but if Tobio shows up at your place, can you let me know immediately? There was a moment of silence. You mean he is out there, in this weather? He dropped his pen, gazing at the window that was getting harshly pelted with raindrops. Yeah, something happened. I just want to make sure he's somewhere safe. Don't think about leaving your house. It's too dangerous, and you need to be there if he decides to go there. I also need you to inform Yama and Hinata. There are also alternatives. I called you since you were the closest. He sighed, the curiosity gnawing at him to know what happened, since it was enough for his lover to just up and leave. Wait, you're calling from his phone. Does that mean... Yes, we have no way of getting a hold of him. He silently cursed. If he had to leave the house, that was okay. In this weather, a little less okay. He would probably just get sick. But not having a phone on him? What was that idiot thinking? Okay, I'll text Tadashi and Shoyo, and I'll let you know if he shows up. Thank you, Tsukishima. I'm counting on you. They hung up with Miwa leaving the house, heading into the dark, stormy night. His hair clung to his skin. He didn't really think about what he was getting himself into whenever he ran out. He didn't realize the downpour or the fact he had no shoes or even a jacket on. He'd already stepped on a shard of glass that happened to be on the sidewalk that he couldn't see in the pitch-black night. There was more to this than Miwa. He hadn't been able to shake what Iwazumi had said in the group chat. Akawa wanted to make amends, blaming his own ego for hurting him. To him, it wasn't that easy. It couldn't be erased with one apology. That was the worst time Oikawa's rage attacked him. It was when Miwa had put a distance to both her and his middle school self. It was when his father left. It was when his grandfather died. It was when he was alone. It was when he had no one to turn to and had no support. I can't do this. He sobbed into his soaked long-sleeve shirt. It was hard to differentiate his tears in the rain. Now here he was, back to square one, alone. He couldn't bring himself to tell his lovers his past. It hurt too much to even be brought up. He went to therapy about his past right before high school. That's how Miwa even knew about his struggles and the true effect it had on him. I'm so fucking stupid. He was shivering. The farther into the night he went, the chillier the rain sliced through his skin, chilling him to the bone. A strong gust of wind depleted his resolve, just realizing he had no idea how long he'd been out. It could have been minutes, hours, truly not enough time, but the weather was nearly unbearable. The thunder rumbling in the distance convinced him to stand back up from the park bench and start walking. He didn't know where he was going. He just let his feet guide him while his mind sent him spiraling back into a pit of depression. Kageyama had that feeling of helplessness that he told himself a million times over that he would never find himself back in, yet again and again he finds his way back. Why do I even try? He scoffed, scuffing the bottom of his bare foot through the puddle of mud, the cut on the bottom of his foot stinging. He found his fingers tracing over his faint scars, wondering what his lovers were doing. While they didn't know much, they were aware of the Raven's past tendencies of harming himself at the very beginning of their first year. After all, they were the ones to save him from that horrid habit. They were there when he felt on the verge of relapsing. They had saved him time and time again, successful at every attempt. He softly smiled, seeing where his feet had subconsciously led him. A moment of hesitation was maybe the worst possible outcome on the setter. He felt his arms tingle where his scars lay, asking for more. No. He couldn't fall down like this again. He paid attention on the flaring pain on his foot, hoping that would be enough to settle his anxiety-ridden nerves. With tears in his eyes, he ran up the porch steps and knocked on the door with urgency he didn't know he had. Come on. Someone open the door. He wasn't sure how much longer he could distract himself before the pain wasn't enough and he would find himself relapsing. He didn't want to. It was an endless trap that he found himself facing the Grim Reaper more times than none. He didn't want history to repeat itself, not just for him, but for his lovers. He remembers one time, the last time he let his agonizing temptations get the best of him, and Tadashi was the first one to find him. The horrid blood-curdling scream plays on repeat in his head. He remembers the other two running in with their own tears running down their cheeks, witnessing the nauseating sight of their lover. The bloody blade was held loosely in between his fingertips that began to feel number by the second. He remembers his lover screaming, begging him to stay awake, and after that, everything went blank. Relentlessly, his lovers had helped him. After seeing the effect he had on them after almost losing his life, he strived to be better, to get help. He never wanted to see those expressions or hear those cries ever again. He knocked again, a little bit more harder this time around, but it was almost immediate that the piece of plywood separating them swung open. Kags? Kageyama's eyes were red, with newfound tears finding their way into his ocean blue eyes. He shivered upon feeling the warmth of the house. His hair clung to his skin. Can I stay here tonight? He didn't mean to stutter. He was partially afraid of his lover's response, and the other part of him was his chattering teeth fighting the words out through the bitter cold. Tsukishima immediately pulled out a towel from behind him, as if he were expecting this, wrapped it around the smeller. Jeez, Tobio, you're soaked. He rubbed the sides of his arms with the towel, giving him warmth while pulling him inside. Once his injured foot met the cold tiles, he groaned, feeling a new and different type of pain. His legs buckled and caved in. The blonde caught him before his knees crashed onto the hard floor. It was only then he noticed the blood pooling from his foot. His eyes widened and his breath hitched. "Baby, did you?" "No, I didn't. I promise I didn't." He cried into the taller's hoodie, realizing what he had implied. "Wait, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it that way. I didn't mean to assume." "You're okay, I promise." He held on tighter, shooting a quick text to Yamaguchi and Hinata. "There was just glass in the road." "Okay." He didn't even question why he wasn't wearing any shoes. He pulled them into his chest, lifting him off the ground and carried him to the bathroom. "What are you doing?" "We need to address your wound. It's dirty and likely to get infected if we don't do anything." He placed a soft kiss on his forehead, getting a fresh towel over his hair that was still damp. "Here, try to dry off while I clean your foot." He drew the water from the tub, running the lukewarm water over his foot, ridding it of mud and older blood. He squinted his eyes, still seeing the shine that did the damage. "There is still some glass in there. Is it okay if I get it out?" He asked in a gentle tone, already grabbing some tweezers, waiting patiently for a response. The latter nodded his head, not seeing another way out of it. He winced, feeling the metal dig into his wound and slowly removing the glass. The water was able to rinse the fresh blood escaping his body. "It doesn't look deep, so you won't need stitches, thank goodness." It was silent as the blonde turned the water off, getting a darker towel, applying pressure to hopefully stop the bleeding altogether. "You aren't going to question?" His lover looked up at him with warm and gentle hazel eyes. "I do have plenty of questions, but there is no sense in overwhelming you with them. I believe that you will tell me when the time is ready. I want to do this at your own pace." He teared up once more. "Okay. I need to tell you something. He paused, seeking the courage from within to tell the elder. Tsukishima rubbed his knee, telling him that it was alright and no matter what he said, he wouldn't think of him any differently. "It was close to relapsing. I was scared, so I came here." The blonde's eyes welled up in tears, gently setting his foot down on the ground with the towel under it, pulling his lover into his arms. He could have lost him and wouldn't have even known it. "Thank you for coming here and telling me. I know it was hard, but I am here for you, I promise. I love you so much. Me, Tadashi, and Sho would never think of you any differently. We all love you." He peppered the smeller in tiny pecks all over his face, making him giggle, trying to shrug him off since it began to tickle. He backed away, respecting him and grabbing some antibiotic cream and bandage to wrap his foot. "Would you like me to get them to come over? I'm sure they wouldn't mind. They are both worried." "I don't mind. I miss them." He smiled sadly, still haunted at his own dark mind. "Okay, good. They should be here any minute now." "What, was that even an option then?" He couldn't help but laugh, holding his stomach from laughing so hard. "Are you laughing at me?" "No, I'm laughing with you," he said in between laughs, making the taller chuckle. He wasn't wrong. His laugh was contagious. He jumped lightly upon hearing a knock from the front door. "That must be them. I'm going to let them in, okay?" He nodded his head, just happy his foot was no longer bleeding. He was starting to get lightheaded. Any more blood and he would surely have passed out. He didn't want Tsukishima to relive that trauma, yet he couldn't help but feel a magnetic attraction to the razor that just sat a few feet away from him. His eyes were glued to it. He sat on his hands to force himself to stay put, yet he couldn't tear his gaze from it. His temptations grew by the millisecond. It was like being stuck on a desert with a glass of water in his line of sight. He felt his hands twitch underneath him. They wanted to grab it and use it to his heart's desire. He wanted it all to stop. His grip on reality and rationality was slipping quickly. His eyes never left the razor, even when his 3 lovers entered the bathroom. "Tobio, are you okay?" The smuggler shouted, crouching down to his side, but he never responded. He hadn't even taken his gaze away. Tsukishima traced his stare, and panic rose in his chest. He grabbed the razor and threw it out of the bathroom, while Yamaguchi stood in his line of vision. "Hey, Tobio? Hey, look at me." The setter was placed into a different, more loving trance, a kind and gentle gaze that sent the negative thoughts away. "Tadashi?" "Yes, we are here. It's okay now." Tsukishima left the room to find a better spot for the razor other than the middle of the hallway floor. Hinata held on to the raven's trembling hands. "Hey, Kei, can you get some clothes? His are still soaked." He nodded his head while Yamaguchi grabbed another towel from the cabinets, trying to sop up the rainwater from his clothes. He was still shivering despite being indoors. "Come on, let's get you into Kei's room." He nodded his head, standing up, forgetting about his foot, almost immediately went back down if it weren't for Yamaguchi catching him by the arm in time. "What hurts?" "My foot." He motioned over to his wrapped up leg, looking down, ashamed. The blonde came back in, clicking his tongue. "Tobio, you need to stay off that. It's probably going to swell." "Sorry." "Don't apologize." He yelled out a little bit more louder than intended before it wrapped the taller's arm around his shoulder. "Come on, you can lean on me while I'll take you to the room." He nodded his head and slowly trudged along the never-ending hallway. He never experienced a relief like popping his head onto a soft and fluffy pillow after being stuck in his mind like that. It was an added bonus that the pillow smelled of Kei's scent. He heard the pinch server laugh. "Not yet. You still need to change clothes." He groaned into the pillow, wanting to just relax, not quite fall asleep. Regardless, he stood up to his best of his ability and stripped himself of his silk shirt. A light shade of pink dusted over the 3 older boys' cheeks, and Kageyama noticed. He smirked, wanting to tease them a little bit. "Like what you see?" He laughed, seeing their expressions change drastically and the pink turn into a vibrant red. Tsukishima turned away, covering his flaming cheeks. Yamaguchi twirled his long bangs as a way to put attention somewhere else that wouldn't expose him from drooling at the younger. Hinata didn't bother hiding it. He started stuttering and yelling. "Yubakiyama! Don't say stuff like that. That's so suddenly." The raven laughed, slipping Tsukishima's hoodie on before stripping himself of his pants. The blonde turned away completely, but rammed his shoulder into the doorframe, causing the setters to snort. "Watch out for that door. It was just installed today." Yeah, just put on your clothes." He stuttered out and silently cursing at himself for doing so, yet he was relieved to hear the beautiful melody of the latter's laugh. Once Kageyama was fully clothed and finally dry, Hinata guided him to bed. "Wait, no, I can't." He bit his lip, knowing what comes next. "I can't sleep." Every time he had even a mildly triggering day, his dreams would be worse than reality. He would wake up feeling even worse. It would be a deadly cycle. Fortunately, his lovers knew this. "It's okay. You don't need to worry about anything. We will be here no matter what. When you fall asleep, when you stir, when you wake up in the morning. Well, later, technically." "Let's just sleep, Tobio. Everything will be okay. If you have a bad dream, you can wake us." He smiled warmly at how his lovers worked so hard to assure his happiness and willingness to keep him comfortable when everything was stacked against him. He didn't answer. He just popped his head onto the pillow once more, hearing a small giggle coming from the speaker. Tsukishima went over to the light, shutting it off only after he turned on the bathroom light, keeping the door cracked for the sake of Hinata, who was scared of the dark. The spiker was first in bed, holding Kageyama close with Yamaguchi draping his arm around Hinata's shoulder. Tsukishima crept into bed, sneaking his arm around Kageyama's waist, rubbing soothing circles onto his abdomen, slowly easing him to sleep. "I'm sorry for causing trouble so late." Before any of them could retort that he was no trouble, he spoke once more. "Thank you." And he was fast asleep. Hinata's back shook in a quiet laugh. That dummy said he couldn't sleep, but he practically passed out. Tsukishima pressed a tender kiss onto the nape of the setter's neck and gave Hinata and Yamaguchi a reassuring squeeze with his free hand. "Let's just go to sleep. We should probably tell Yukai that we won't make it to practice tomorrow." Later." Yamaguchi snorted, knowing that later meant after practice, meaning there would be no point. Regardless, tonight's exhausting events caught up to the Kurasano first years, and they fell into slumber. The next morning, Sugawara started a group chat. Sugawara added Kema and Hinata to the group chat. "You know what time it is?" Okay, I surprisingly got that all done in one sitting. Yeah. I hope you enjoyed that because that is the last part of the I Can't Sleep challenge, and I even added a little sneak peek at the end with Sugawara starting a group chat, and I even showed some like little emojis or whatever they are, they're emojis, to give out hints at what they could be. Another hint is that I have briefly mentioned it in my community post. So, comment what you think the next prank is going to be. Thank you so much for watching. As always, if you'd like to be kept up to date, check out any of my social medias. I hope that you all have a wonderful day or evening.